You are not lazy. Let me say that again, because you have probably spent years believing the opposite. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are not missing some magical gene that successful people were born with, and you are not. You have simply been lied to. 92% of people will die with their dreams still inside them. Not because they lack talent. Not because the world was unfair. Not because they did not have enough time, money, or opportunity. They will die unfulfilled because every single morning of their adult lives, they waited for a feeling that was never designed to show up on command. A feeling that betrayed them over and over again while they kept trusting it like a lover who never comes home. That feeling has a name. You call it motivation, and it has been destroying you. For years, you have been told a story. You were told that successful people wake up burning with passion. You were told that the greats, the legends, the ones whose names echo through history, they must feel something different when their alarm goes off. Some invisible fire must ignite in their chest, propelling them out of bed and into greatness while you lie there bargaining with your ceiling, begging your brain for just 5 more minutes. Here is the truth nobody wants to tell you. That fire does not exist. Not the way you think it does. The most successful people on this planet do not feel more motivated than you. They feel tired. They feel doubt. They feel the same gravitational pull of the pillow, the same whisper of the snooze button, the same seductive voice that says tomorrow would be a better day to start. The difference is they stop listening. They stop negotiating. They stop treating their feelings as commands and started treating them as weather. Something to notice, perhaps, but never something to obey. And that single shift changes everything. Dr. Angela Duckworth spent 12 years at the University of Pennsylvania studying what separates extraordinary achievers from everyone else. Her research spanned West Point military cadets, national spelling bee champions, rookie teachers in tough neighborhoods, and salespeople at major corporations. What she discovered should fundamentally rewire how you think about success. The highest performers did not report higher levels of motivation. Read that again. The people accomplishing remarkable things did not feel more inspired, more energized, or more excited about their work than average performers. Their internal experience was nearly identical. What differed was one thing, and one thing only: their response to that internal experience. Average performers feel unmotivated and conclude they should not act. Elite performers feel unmotivated and act anyway. That is it. That is the entire secret. There is no hidden chapter. There is no advanced technique they are keeping from you. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not a gap of knowledge. It is a gap of behavior in the absence of feeling. Let this sink in for a moment. Every morning, you and the person you most admire wake up with approximately the same resistance to starting the day, the same heaviness in your limbs, the same fog in your mind, the same internal negotiation about whether today really needs to be the day. The difference is what happens in the next 3 seconds. They move. You think. They act. You analyze. They have already started while you are still deciding whether you feel ready to begin. Here is the paradox that will set you free once you truly understand it. Motivation is not the fuel for action. Motivation is the exhaust. It is the byproduct, the residue, the thing that gets generated after the engine has already started running. You have spent your entire life trying to fill your tank with exhaust fumes, wondering why you never have enough energy to drive anywhere. The neuroscience is unambiguous on this point. Dr. Andrew Huberman at Stanford University's neurobiology department has demonstrated that dopamine, the neurochemical most associated with motivation and drive, is released in highest quantities not when we anticipate action, but when we initiate it. Your brain rewards movement, not contemplation. The chemical motivation you are waiting for is literally locked behind a door that only opens when you start moving. This means every moment you spend waiting to feel motivated is neurologically backwards. You are standing outside a door, waiting for someone inside to let you in, not realizing the only handle is on your side. Motion creates emotion. This is not poetry. This is biology. This is the operating system of your brain that nobody taught you in school. Start moving, and the feelings follow. Wait for the feelings, and you will wait forever. Now let me show you what this looks like in real life, because understanding is worthless without application. There is a version of you that wakes up tomorrow morning and does what you have always done. The alarm screams. Your hand reaches out, silences it, and you negotiate. You tell yourself you will get up in 5 minutes, then 10, then 15. By the time your feet hit the floor, you have already lost. Not the time. The time is irrelevant. You have lost something far more valuable. You have lost the first vote of the day for who you are. Every action you take is a vote for your identity. When you hit snooze, you are not just stealing 9 minutes from your morning. You are casting a vote that says comfort matters more than commitment. You are telling your subconscious mind that your word to yourself means nothing. You are reinforcing a pattern that will echo through every decision you make for the rest of the day. And then there is another version of you, the one who understands what you are beginning to understand right now. The one who recognizes that the first decision of the day sets the trajectory for all decisions that follow. This version hears the alarm and feels the same resistance, the same heaviness, the same magnetic pull back toward unconsciousness. But this version knows something that changes everything. The feeling is not a signal. The feeling is a test. And every single morning, you have been failing it. A study published in the European Journal of Social Psychology tracked over 800 participants attempting to build new habits. The researchers found that the single greatest predictor of long-term success was not the difficulty of the habit, not the resources available, not the person's past history of achievement or failure. It was the consistency of early-day execution. Participants who performed their target behavior within the first hour of waking were 270% more likely to maintain that behavior at the 6-month mark. Your morning is not just the beginning of your day. Your morning is the foundation of your identity. What you do in those first fragile minutes after opening your eyes sends a signal to every cell in your body about who you are and what you are willing to tolerate from yourself. Most people start their day in defeat. They lose to the alarm. They lose to the scroll. They lose to the snooze. And then they wonder why they cannot seem to win at anything else. The protocol you are about to learn in this audiobook is not another collection of productivity hacks. It is not a motivational speech designed to give you goosebumps for 48 hours before you crash back into old patterns. What you are receiving is a systematic dismantling of the mental architecture that has kept you trapped. Think of it as psychological demolition followed by precise reconstruction. You will learn why announcing your goals actually destroys your ability to achieve them. You will understand why boredom, not difficulty, is the true filter that separates those who transform from those who stay stuck. You will discover the exact protocol that allows elite performers to execute day after day, month after month, regardless of whether they feel inspired or empty. But none of that matters if you do not first burn this truth into your mind. Motivation was never meant to be your engine. It was only ever meant to be your passenger. And you have spent years refusing to drive because your passenger has not shown up yet. The people who changed history did not wait to feel like changing it. The athletes who shattered records did not wait for the morning to feel magical. The entrepreneurs who built empires did not meditate until inspiration struck like lightning. They understood what you now understand. Feelings follow action. Action does not follow feelings. The sequence everyone taught you was backwards, and that backward sequence has cost you years. So here is my question for you, and I want you to answer it honestly. What have you been waiting for? What dream have you postponed because you did not feel ready? What version of yourself have you been delaying because the motivation never arrived? That waiting ends now, not tomorrow, not Monday. Not when the timing feels right. Now, because the timing will never feel right. That is the whole point. The readiness you are waiting for can only be built by acting before you feel ready. But killing the old pattern is only the first step. In the next chapter, you will learn about the most important test you face every single day. A test so simple that most people do not even recognize it as a test. A test that happens in the first 9 minutes after you open your eyes. It is called the Snooze Button Test. And right now, without even knowing what it measures, I can tell you with near certainty that you are failing it. Every morning, over and over, casting vote after vote for the weakest version of yourself. That changes in the next chapter, but only if you keep listening. Chapter 2, the Snooze Button Test. The most important battle of your life happens before your feet touch the floor. Every morning, in the darkness of your bedroom, a war is being fought. You do not see it as a war. You see it as a simple decision about sleep. But what is actually happening in those first few seconds after your alarm begins to scream is nothing less than a referendum on your entire identity. And most people lose this war before they even realize it has begun. Let me paint a picture you will recognize. The alarm explodes into the silence. Your hand shoots out from under the covers, guided by muscle memory, and silences it. In that moment, a voice appears. Not an external voice. Something deeper. Something that knows exactly what to say to keep you horizontal. Just 5 more minutes. You deserve rest. You worked hard yesterday. What difference will 9 minutes make? You will be more productive if you sleep a little longer. Today does not have to be the day. Tomorrow you will start fresh. This voice sounds reasonable. It sounds like self-care. It sounds like wisdom. But I need you to understand something that will change how you see every morning for the rest of your life. That voice is not your friend. That voice is the architect of your mediocrity. And every single time you obey it, you are signing a contract with your weakest self. Here is what is actually happening in your brain during those critical seconds. When your alarm goes off, you are experiencing what neuroscientists call sleep inertia. This is a transitional state where your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, willpower, and long-term thinking, is still partially offline. The more primitive parts of your brain, the parts that seek comfort and avoid discomfort at all costs, are fully awake and screaming for you to stay in bed. This is not a fair fight. Your higher self is groggy and half-conscious. Your lower self is alert and persuasive. And in this imbalanced state, you are being asked to make a decision that will define who you are. Dr. Roy Baumeister's research at Florida State University demonstrated something profound about willpower. He found that our capacity for self-control is highest at the beginning of the day and depletes with every decision we make. This means your morning is not just the start of your day. It is the moment when you have the most power to choose who you want to be. And you are surrendering that power to a 9-minute button. Think about what the snooze button actually represents. It is not a time management tool. It is a confession. Every time you press it, you are telling yourself that your commitment to your goals is negotiable. You are announcing that comfort is more important than the promises you made to yourself. You are teaching your subconscious mind that your word means nothing. And your subconscious mind is always listening, always learning, always building an identity based on the evidence you provide. Here is a truth that most people spend their entire lives running from. You do not get to choose your identity through your thoughts. You do not become disciplined by thinking about discipline. You do not become successful by visualizing success. You become who you are through the accumulation of tiny actions, repeated daily, that cast votes for a particular version of yourself. Every morning, you cast a vote. Snooze is a vote for weakness. Rising is a vote for strength. And over time, these votes are counted. They become your character. They become your reputation with yourself. They become the invisible force that either propels you toward your goals or holds you hostage to your comfort zone. The most successful people I have studied do not have more willpower than you. They have simply protected their mornings from negotiation. They have removed the decision entirely. The alarm goes off and they move. Not because they feel energized, not because they are excited about the day, but because they understand that the first victory of the day creates momentum for every victory that follows. There is a neurological phenomenon that explains why this works. When you complete a challenging task, your brain releases dopamine. This dopamine does not just make you feel good. It primes your brain for the next challenge. It creates what psychologists call self-efficacy, the belief that you are capable of doing hard things. Each small win builds evidence for your competence, making the next one more likely. But here is the dark side of this mechanism. It works in reverse with equal power. When you fail at the first challenge of the day, when you surrender to the snooze button, your brain registers a loss. This loss does not stay contained to that single moment. It bleeds into everything that follows. You are more likely to skip your workout, more likely to eat poorly, more likely to procrastinate on important tasks, more likely to go to bed disappointed in yourself. promising that tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow is never different. Tomorrow is just today repeated, because you are the same person making the same choices based on the same identity you reinforced this morning. A study conducted at the University of Nottingham followed participants who were trying to establish exercise habits. The researchers found something remarkable. Participants who completed their workout within 1 hour of waking had a 93% adherence rate after 12 weeks. Participants who scheduled their workout for later in the day had only 26% adherence. Same people, same workout, same goals. The only difference was timing. Your morning is sacred not because of some mystical energy. Your morning is sacred because it is the foundation upon which the entire day is built. When the morning, and you have momentum, lose the morning, and you spend the rest of the day trying to recover from a deficit that keeps compounding. Now I want you to visualize something. I want you to see yourself tomorrow morning. The alarm goes off. The darkness surrounds you. The bed is warm. The voice begins its familiar negotiation. But this time, something is different. This time, you understand what is actually being asked of you. The alarm is not asking if you are tired. Of course you are tired. Everyone is tired. The alarm is asking a much more important question. Who are you? Are you the person who keeps promises to yourself? Or are you the person who breaks them before the sun rises? Are you the person who does hard things when they do not feel like it? Or are you the person who waits for the perfect conditions that never arrive? In that moment, you have 5 seconds. 5 seconds before your brain begins manufacturing excuses. 5 seconds before the rationalizations start flowing. 5 seconds to plant your feet on the floor and cast your vote. This is the snooze button test. And it is not really about sleep at all. It is about self-trust. It is about whether you can count on yourself to do what you said you would do, even when no one is watching, even when it is uncomfortable, even when every fiber of your being is begging you to quit. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not superhuman. They have simply passed this test so many times that their identity has shifted. They no longer see themselves as people who negotiate with discomfort. They see themselves as people who act despite discomfort. And that identity, once established, makes discipline almost automatic. Average performers treat the morning as a negotiation. They bargain with themselves, offering compromises, making deals, trading future productivity for present comfort. Elite performers treat the morning as a declaration. There is no discussion. There is no internal debate. There is only the alarm and a response. The response is always the same. Move. You might be thinking that this sounds extreme. You might be telling yourself that successful people cannot possibly approach every morning with this level of intensity. But I want you to consider something. What has treating your mornings casually gotten you so far? How many years have you been pressing snooze and promising yourself that today does not count, that the real effort starts tomorrow? How many tomorrows have come and gone while you remained exactly where you are? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. If you want a different life, you need a different morning. And a different morning starts with understanding that the snooze button is not a harmless convenience. It is a trapdoor that drops you back into the prison of your old identity every single time you step on it. Tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off, I want you to remember this chapter. I want you to feel the weight of what is being decided in that moment. And I want you to understand that the person you want to become is waiting on the other side of those 5 seconds. But here is what nobody tells you about winning the morning. It is not enough to simply get out of bed. Plenty of people get out of bed and still fail to become who they want to be. Because the snooze button is just the first test. There is another layer, a deeper battle that determines whether your actions will stick or fade. It is the battle between your mood and your identity. And in the next chapter, you will learn why the question you ask yourself each morning is either building an unstoppable version of you or keeping you chained to your emotional weather. The question is simple, but the answer changes everything. Chapter 3: Identity over Mood. There are 2 kinds of people in this world, and the difference between them comes down to 3 words. The first kind wakes up and asks themselves a question. Do I feel like working out today? Do I feel like writing today? Do I feel like doing the hard thing I promised myself I would do? Their entire day becomes a hostage negotiation with their emotions. If the feelings cooperate, they act. If the feelings resist, they surrender. They are passengers in their own lives, waiting for their mood to take the wheel and drive them somewhere meaningful. The second kind wakes up and never asks that question at all. They do not consult their feelings because their feelings are irrelevant to the decision. They operate from a different source entirely. Not mood, identity. This is the difference between someone who says I am trying to be disciplined and someone who says I am disciplined. 3 words, an entirely different life. Let me explain why this distinction matters so much. Because it is not just semantics. It is neuroscience. It is psychology. It is the invisible operating system that determines whether your efforts will compound into transformation or collapse into another failed attempt. Your brain has one primary job: survival. And one of the most powerful survival mechanisms your brain employs is something called cognitive consistency. Your mind is constantly working to ensure that your actions align with your beliefs about who you are. When there is a gap between what you do and who you believe yourself to be, your brain experiences psychological discomfort. It will work relentlessly to close that gap. Here is where it gets interesting. Your brain does not care which direction it closes the gap. It can either change your actions to match your identity or change your identity to match your actions. And whichever one requires less effort in the moment is the one your brain will choose. This is why identity is so powerful. When your identity is fixed, your brain has no choice but to adjust your behavior. When your identity is flexible, your brain takes the easy path and adjusts your beliefs instead. You tell yourself you are not really a gym person. You tell yourself discipline is not your strength. You rewrite your self-concept to justify your failures, and each rewrite makes the next failure more likely. Dr. Carol Dweck at Stanford University spent decades researching how beliefs shape performance. Her work revealed something that should change how you think about every goal you have ever set. People who viewed their traits as fixed, who said things like "I am just not a disciplined person," consistently underperformed compared to people who viewed their traits as malleable. But here's the part most people miss. The highest performers were not those who believed they could become disciplined. The highest performers were those who already identified as disciplined, even before they had the evidence to prove it. They led with identity. The evidence followed. This is backwards from how most people approach change. Most people wait for proof before they update their self-image. They think once I have been to the gym for 6 months, then I can call myself a fit person. Once I have finished the project, then I can call myself productive. Once I have the results, then I can claim the identity. But identity does not work that way. You do not earn an identity through results. You build results through identity. The belief comes first. The behavior follows. The outcomes are simply the residue of a self-concept that demanded them. Let me show you how this plays out in practice, because understanding this intellectually is worthless if you cannot apply it. Imagine 2 people trying to quit smoking. A friend offers them a cigarette. The first person says, "No thanks, I am trying to quit." The second person says, "No thanks, I am not a smoker." Same situation, same refusal, completely different psychology. The first person is still identifying as a smoker who is attempting to modify their behavior. Every cigarette they refuse is a battle against who they believe themselves to be. They are swimming upstream against their own self-concept, and eventually, the current will win. The second person has shifted their identity entirely. They are not fighting their self-concept. They are expressing it. Refusing the cigarette requires no willpower because smokers smoke and they are not a smoker. The decision is already made. The identity handles the behavior automatically. This is the secret that elite performers understand intuitively. Willpower is finite. Identity is renewable. If you rely on willpower to drag yourself through difficult behaviors, you will eventually run out. But if you shift your identity to someone who simply does those behaviors, the struggle disappears. You are no longer forcing yourself to act against your nature. You are acting in alignment with it. Average performers try to build habits through discipline. They grit their teeth, white-knuckle their way through uncomfortable actions, and eventually burn out. Elite performers build habits through identity. They decide who they are first, then let that decision filter every choice that follows. One approach is exhausting. The other is automatic. The question you must ask yourself is not what do I want to achieve? That question keeps you focused on outcomes, which are largely outside your control. The question that changes everything is who do I want to become? That question puts the focus on identity, which is entirely within your control. You cannot control whether you get the promotion, but you can control whether you become the kind of person who deserves it. You cannot control whether your business succeeds, but you can control whether you become the kind of person who builds successful businesses. You cannot control the results, but you can control the identity. And when the identity is right, the results tend to follow. Here is how to apply this practically. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. No single action will transform you, but the accumulation of actions provides overwhelming evidence that you are who you claim to be. When you wake up early, you cast a vote for being a disciplined person. When you hit snooze, you cast a vote for being someone who breaks promises to themselves. When you do the work even when you do not feel like it, you cast a vote for being unstoppable. When you wait for motivation, you cast a vote for being someone who is controlled by their emotions. Every vote counts. Every vote is being tallied. And eventually, the votes reach a tipping point where your identity shifts. You do not become disciplined gradually. You accumulate evidence gradually. And then one day you realize the shift has already happened. You are no longer trying to be disciplined. You simply are. But here is the part that trips most people up. In the beginning, there is a gap. You are claiming an identity you do not fully believe yet. You are saying, I am disciplined, while your track record screams otherwise. This gap feels like fraud. It feels like lying to yourself. And many people abandon the process because the dissonance is too uncomfortable. This discomfort is not a sign you are doing it wrong. It is a sign you are doing it right. The gap between your claimed identity and your current evidence is not a problem to avoid. It is a space to fill. Every action you take that aligns with your new identity deposits evidence into that space. Eventually, the space fills up. The gap closes. The identity that once felt like a lie becomes the undeniable truth of who you are. Do not wait for the evidence before you claim the identity. Claim the identity and then spend every day gathering the evidence to prove it. This is the shift that separates those who transform from those who stay stuck forever. But there is a practical problem with everything I have just told you. Knowing that identity matters does not help you in the moment when your alarm goes off and your brain is manufacturing 1,000 reasons to stay in bed. Knowing that you should act regardless of mood does not give you a tool to actually do it. You need a mechanism, a trigger, something that interrupts the negotiation before it starts and propels you into action before your brain has time to construct its case against you. That mechanism exists. It takes exactly 5 seconds. And in the next chapter, you will learn how to use it to override every excuse your mind has ever created. 5 seconds. That is all that stands between who you are and who you could become. Chapter 4. The 5-second window. Your brain is not your ally. It is a survival machine with one obsession: keeping you alive. And to your brain, alive means comfortable, familiar, unchanged. Every time you attempt something difficult, something new, something that threatens the status quo of your existence, your brain interprets it as danger. Not logical danger, primal danger. The same circuits that once protected your ancestors from predators now fire when you think about starting that business, having that conversation, or simply getting out of bed when every cell in your body is screaming for more sleep. This is why knowledge is never enough. You can read every book on discipline. You can understand exactly what you need to do. You can visualize your goals with perfect clarity. And still, when the moment comes to act, something stops you. That something is not weakness. It is neuroscience. Your brain has a window, a brief gap between the moment an impulse arises and the moment your mental defense system activates. Researchers estimate this window lasts approximately 5 seconds. 5 seconds before your prefrontal cortex begins generating reasons not to act. 5 seconds before fear disguises itself as logic. 5 seconds before tomorrow starts sounding better than today. After those 5 seconds, you have already lost. This is not a metaphor. Dr. Antonio Damasio's research at the University of Southern California demonstrated that emotional impulses precede conscious thought by measurable fractions of time. Your brain feels before it thinks. And if you give it enough time to think, it will think you out of every important decision you need to make. This is the biological basis of hesitation. When you feel the impulse to act, to speak up in a meeting, to start your workout, to make the call you have been avoiding, your brain immediately begins a threat assessment. Is this safe? Is this familiar? What could go wrong? Within seconds, it manufactures a case against action so convincing that you believe the excuses are your own rational thoughts. They are not. They are fear wearing a suit and speaking in a reasonable tone. The 5-second window is your escape hatch. It is the brief moment when you can move before your brain builds its prison of excuses around you. Miss that window, and you will spend the next 10 minutes, 10 hours, or 10 years rationalizing why now is not the right time. Mel Robbins discovered this principle at the lowest point of her life. Unemployed, facing bankruptcy, marriage falling apart, she could not even get out of bed in the morning. One night, watching a rocket launch on television, she had a thought. What if she launched herself out of bed like a rocket? What if she counted down from 5 and simply moved before her brain could stop her? The next morning, she tried it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Move. It worked. Not because counting is magical, but because counting interrupts the pattern. It gives your prefrontal cortex a task, a focus, something to do other than manufacture excuses. By the time you reach 1, your body is already in motion. The window stays open just long enough for you to escape through it. This is not positive thinking. This is neurological hijacking. You are using your brain's own mechanisms against its default programming. Here is what happens when you hesitate. Your brain detects uncertainty. Uncertainty triggers the amygdala, your fear center. The amygdala floods your system with stress hormones. These hormones activate your survival instincts. Your survival instincts tell you to avoid the threat. The threat, in this case, is change. So you stay the same. You hit snooze. You scroll instead of work. You plan instead of execute. You research instead of begin. Every hesitation strengthens the neural pathway of avoidance. Every time you feel an impulse and do not act on it, you train your brain that impulses are to be suppressed. Over time, this becomes your default. You become someone who thinks about doing things rather than someone who does them. The gap between intention and action widens until it becomes uncrossable. But here is the redemption. The same neuroplasticity that built your hesitation habit can build an action habit. Every time you feel an impulse and move within 5 seconds, you strengthen a different pathway. You train your brain that impulses are to be followed. You become someone who acts. The gap between intention and action shrinks until it disappears entirely. Average performers feel an impulse and consult their feelings. They ask themselves if they are ready, if the timing is right, if they have enough energy. By the time they finish asking, the window has closed. Elite performers feel an impulse and move. They do not ask. They do not analyze. They count backward if they need to, and they launch before their brain can construct a single objection. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Move. This is not about being reckless. This is about recognizing that your brain's threat detection system is miscalibrated for modern life. The same system that once saved you from lions is now stopping you from sending emails. The danger is not real, but your brain cannot tell the difference. So you must override it manually every single time until action becomes automatic. The practical application is simple. When you feel the impulse to do something you know you should do, start counting. Do not give yourself time to think. Do not wait until you feel ready. The countdown creates urgency. The urgency creates movement. The movement creates momentum. And momentum is the cure for everything that has been holding you back. Tomorrow morning, when your alarm goes off, you will feel the pull to stay in bed. Your brain will begin its familiar negotiation. But this time, you have a weapon. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Feet on the floor. Before the excuses form. Before the rationalizations crystallize. Before your brain builds its case. You have 5 seconds. Use them or lose them. But even with this tool, there is a deeper problem that most people never address. You can win the morning. You can override your brain's resistance. You can take action despite your feelings and still fail, because action without architecture collapses. Motivation without systems evaporates. Willpower without structure depletes. In the next chapter, you will learn why goals are not the answer, why the very thing you have been taught to pursue is actually keeping you stuck, and why the people who achieve extraordinary results have stopped chasing outcomes entirely. They build systems instead, and systems never let you down. Chapter 5: Systems over Goals. Everyone has goals. The people stuck in jobs they hate have goals. The people drowning in debt have goals. The people who have been meaning to get in shape for the last decade have goals. Goals are not the problem. Goals are everywhere. Goals are cheap. What separates the extraordinary from the ordinary is not the quality of their goals. It is the architecture of their days. Here is a truth that will contradict almost everything you have been taught about success. Goals do not determine outcomes. Systems do. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And if your systems are broken, no amount of ambition will save you. Think about it this way. A goal is a desired endpoint. I want to lose 30 pounds. I want to write a book. I want to build a successful business. These are destinations on a map. But a destination without a vehicle is just a fantasy. You can stare at the map all day. You can visualize the destination with perfect clarity. You can want it with every fiber of your being. But without a vehicle, without a system that moves you forward inch by inch, day by day, you will die exactly where you are standing. Systems are the vehicle. Systems are the daily architecture that makes progress inevitable rather than accidental. Systems remove decision-making from the equation. Systems operate when motivation fails, when willpower depletes, when life gets chaotic and unpredictable. A study published in the British Journal of Health Psychology examined 3 groups of people trying to build exercise habits. The first group was asked to track how often they exercised. The second group received motivational material about the benefits of exercise. The third group was asked to create a specific plan stating exactly when and where they would exercise each week. The results were stunning. In the first and second groups, only 35 to 38% of participants exercised at least once per week. In the third group, the one with a system, 91% exercised at least once per week. Same people, same goal. One group had a system. That system made the difference between failure and success. This is what most people miss. They think success requires more motivation, more discipline, more willpower. So they consume motivational content, hoping to feel inspired. They make promises to themselves, hoping this time will be different. They set bigger, bolder goals, hoping ambition will carry them through. It never does, because motivation fades, discipline wavers, willpower depletes with every decision you make throughout the day. By evening, you are running on empty, and the goal that seemed so important this morning now seems like something that can wait until tomorrow. Systems do not require motivation. Systems operate automatically. When you build the right architecture, you do not need to decide whether to do the work. The decision has already been made. The only thing left is execution. Let me show you the difference between goal thinking and system thinking. Goal thinking says I want to write a book. System thinking says I write 500 words every morning before I check my phone. Goal thinking says I want to get in shape. System thinking says I go to the gym at 6 in the morning on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and my gym bag is packed the night before. Goal thinking says I want to be more productive. System thinking says I work in 90-minute blocks with no notifications, no email, no interruptions. Do you see the difference? Goals are about outcomes. Systems are about processes. Goals are about what you want. Systems are about what you do. Goals exist in the future. Systems exist right now, today, in the next hour. Average performers are obsessed with goals. They write them down. They create vision boards. They set deadlines. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Elite performers are obsessed with systems. They design their environment. They create routines that remove friction. They build architecture that makes the right behavior easier than the wrong behavior. Here is a practical example. Imagine you want to eat healthier. The goal-oriented approach is to decide you will eat better and rely on willpower to make good choices. The system-oriented approach is to remove all junk food from your house. Prepare healthy meals on Sunday for the entire week and place those meals at eye level in your refrigerator. With the goal approach, you must make the right decision every single time you are hungry. That is dozens of willpower battles every day. Eventually, you lose one, then another, then the goal collapses. With the system approach, the decision is made once. The environment does the work. When you open the refrigerator, the healthy food is right there. The junk food does not exist. You do not need discipline because the architecture handles the behavior for you. This is what James Clear calls environment design. You do not need more willpower. You need less friction between you and the behaviors that serve you. You need more friction between you and the behaviors that destroy you. Design the environment, and the environment shapes the behavior. The most disciplined people are not the ones with the most willpower. They are the ones who have structured their lives so that discipline is rarely required. Their systems carry them. Their architecture protects them. They are not fighting temptation every hour because temptation has been engineered out of their environment. So here is the question you must ask yourself. What is your system? Not your goal. Your system. What is the daily architecture that guarantees progress regardless of how you feel? If you cannot answer that question with specificity, you do not have a system. You have a wish. And wishes do not come true. Systems do. Build the vehicle. Design the environment. Create the architecture. Stop relying on motivation to drive you somewhere it was never designed to go. But even with perfect systems, there is a saboteur lurking in the shadows. Something that can destroy your progress without you even realizing it. Something you probably do every single day, believing it helps you, when in reality it is stealing the very energy you need to execute. It is called the announcement. And in the next chapter, you will learn why telling people about your goals is one of the most destructive habits you can have. Why silence is not just a strategy, but a survival mechanism. And why the people who achieve the most talk about it the least. Your goals have a leak, and you have been drilling the holes yourself. Chapter 6: The Silence Protocol. You have been sabotaging yourself in plain sight, and you have been doing it while believing you were doing something helpful. Every time you announce your goals, every time you share your plans, every time you tell someone what you are going to accomplish, you are draining the very fuel you need to accomplish it. You are handing out pieces of your future to people who cannot help you build it. You are trading execution for applause, and that trade is destroying you. This is not opinion. This is neuroscience. And once you understand it, you will never announce a goal again. Here is what happens in your brain when you share your intentions. You tell a friend you are going to start a business. Their eyes light up. They congratulate you. They tell you how excited they are for you. In that moment, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical it releases when you actually accomplish something. Your brain cannot tell the difference between the announcement and the achievement. It rewards you for talking as if you had already done the work. This is called social reality. Psychologist Peter Gollwitzer at New York University has studied this phenomenon for decades. His research consistently shows that when people announce their intentions, they experience a premature sense of completeness. The goal feels closer than it actually is. The motivation to pursue it decreases because the brain has already collected its reward. You told everyone you were going to write a book. You felt the pride. You received the validation. And then you never wrote a single chapter. Because your brain was satisfied. The announcement was enough. This is dopamine hijacking. Your reward system was designed to motivate action by promising pleasure after completion. But when you announce your goals, you hack that system. You collect the pleasure before the completion. And once the pleasure is collected, the drive evaporates. A study published in Psychological Science divided participants into two groups. Both groups wrote down a personal goal. One group announced their goal to the room. The other group kept it private. Then both groups were given 45 minutes to work toward their goal. The results were remarkable. The group that announced their goals worked for an average of 33 minutes and reported feeling satisfied with their progress. The group that stayed silent worked for the full 45 minutes and reported feeling they still had more to do. Same goal, same time. The only difference was who knew about it. The silent group outworked the announcers by 36% and still had more hunger to continue. This is why the most dangerous thing you can do with a new goal is post it on social media. Every like is a dopamine hit. Every comment is a small reward. Every share gives you the feeling of progress without any actual progress. You are building an audience for a show that will never be performed. Think about your own life. How many times have you announced something you never finished? How many gym memberships did you tell everyone about before quitting? How many business ideas did you share at dinner parties that never became businesses? How many books did you plan to write, courses you planned to take, changes you planned to make, that died in the space between announcement and action? The announcement felt good. That was the problem. It felt so good that it replaced the need to actually do the thing. Average performers announce their intentions immediately. They cannot wait to tell people. They mistake the excitement of sharing for the excitement of achieving. They collect validation deposits from everyone around them, then wonder why they have no motivation left when it is time to execute. Elite performers operate differently. They understand that silence is not just a strategy, it is a survival mechanism. They protect their goals like treasure. They share nothing until there is something to show. They let the results speak because results speak louder than intentions ever could. There is another layer to this. When you announce your goals, you create external pressure. You might think pressure is motivating. Sometimes it is. But the wrong kind of pressure creates anxiety rather than action. Every person who knows your goal becomes a potential judge. Every family gathering becomes an interrogation. Every friend becomes a reminder of what you said you would do, but have not done yet. This pressure does not drive you forward. It drives you into hiding. You start avoiding the people you told. You change the subject when your goals come up. The shame of not progressing becomes heavier than the goal itself. And eventually, you abandon the goal just to escape the weight of everyone's expectations. Silence eliminates this pressure entirely. When no one knows, no one is waiting. When no one is waiting, there is no shame in the struggle. You are free to fail privately, adjust privately, restart privately. You are free to take as long as you need without the ticking clock of public accountability making you anxious. Here's the protocol. From this moment forward, treat your goals like classified information. Do not share them with friends over coffee. Do not post them on social media. Do not tell your family what you are working on. Become a vault. Become someone who does not talk about what they are going to do. Become someone who only reveals what they have already done. Win in silence. Let success make the noise. When you finally achieve the goal, you can share it. At that point, the dopamine is deserved. The reward matches the work. But until that moment, every word you speak about your intentions is a leak in your motivational fuel tank. Seal the leaks. Protect the energy. Use every drop for execution instead of announcement. This feels unnatural at first. We are social creatures. We want to share our excitement. We want support and encouragement. But the support you get from announcements is counterfeit. It feels real, but produces nothing real. The only support that matters is the support you give yourself through consistent action when no one is watching. Your goals deserve better than to become dinner party conversations that fade by morning. Your dreams deserve better than social media posts that collect likes and gather dust. Your potential deserves protection, and protection means silence. But there is an enemy even more subtle than the announcement. An enemy that kills more goals than failure ever could. It does not attack when things are hard. It attacks when things get boring, when the excitement fades, when the novelty wears off, when the work becomes repetitive and the progress becomes invisible. In the next chapter, you will learn why boredom is the true test of your commitment. Why the people who quit almost always quit not when it gets difficult, but when it gets dull. And why mastering boredom is the final gateway to becoming unstoppable. The excitement got you started. Only boredom mastery will get you to the finish. Chapter 7: Boredom Mastery. The enemy you have been preparing for is not the one that will defeat you. You have been building walls against difficulty. You have been training yourself to push through pain, to overcome obstacles, to fight when things get hard. And all of that preparation is valuable. But it is preparation for the wrong war. The truth is, most people do not quit when things get hard. They quit when things get boring. Difficulty is dramatic. Difficulty gives you a story to tell. When you push through something hard, you feel like a warrior. Your brain rewards you with a surge of accomplishment. You can point to the obstacle and say, "I conquered that." Difficulty, paradoxically, is motivating. It gives you something to fight against. Boredom offers no such reward. Boredom is silent. Boredom is invisible. Boredom does not attack you. It slowly dissolves you, one repetitive day at a time, one monotonous session at a time, until you wake up one morning and realize you stopped doing the thing that was supposed to change your life, and you cannot even remember when or why. This is the graveyard where goals go to die, not in the fire of challenge, but in the fog of repetition. Here is what nobody tells you about success. The path to mastery is not a highlight reel. It is not a montage of breakthroughs and victories. The path to mastery is showing up on day 347 and doing the same thing you did on day 1, with the same focus, the same intensity, the same commitment, even though the excitement died somewhere around day 30. The greatest athletes in the world do not practice exotic techniques every day. They drill the fundamentals, the same footwork, the same swing, the same shot, thousands upon thousands of times, until their body can execute without thought, until mastery becomes muscle memory. Kobe Bryant was famous for his work ethic, but what made his work ethic legendary was not intensity alone. It was consistency through boredom. He shot the same shots every single day for 20 years. He did not need variety to stay engaged. He understood that the repetition itself was the point. The boredom was not an obstacle to mastery. The boredom was the price of mastery. Dr. K. Anders Ericsson studied elite performers across multiple domains for over 3 decades. His research on deliberate practice revealed something crucial about expertise. The highest performers did not necessarily practice more hours than others. They practiced with more consistency over longer periods of time. They were willing to repeat the same drills, the same exercises, the same fundamentals, long after the novelty had evaporated. This is the filter that separates the elite from the average. Not talent, not resources, not opportunity, the willingness to be bored. Average performers chase novelty. When the workout gets repetitive, they switch programs. When the business strategy gets tedious, they pivot to something more exciting. When the relationship loses its spark, they look for a new one. They are addicted to the feeling of beginning, the freshness, the possibility, the dopamine rush of something new. Elite performers embrace monotony. They understand that novelty is the enemy of depth. Every time you switch to something new, you reset your progress. You abandon the compound interest of repetition right before it was about to pay dividends. You mistake boredom for a signal that something is wrong, when in reality, boredom is a signal that you are exactly where you need to be. Think about this carefully. The moment something becomes boring is the moment most people quit, which means the moment something becomes boring is also the moment when most of your competition disappears. If you can stay engaged when others check out, if you can maintain intensity when others coast, you will inevitably rise. Not because you are more talented, but because you are still there. Boredom is the final filter. It is the last test before mastery. And most people fail it because they misinterpret what it means. When you feel bored with your progress, you are not failing. You are graduating. You have moved past the beginner phase where everything is new and exciting. You have entered the intermediate phase where growth is slower and less visible. This is where the real work happens. This is where the foundations are laid that will support everything you build later. But your brain does not like this phase. Your brain craves novelty because novelty once meant survival. A new berry, a new path, a new tool. In the ancestral environment, noticing new things kept you alive. But in the modern world, this craving for novelty keeps you shallow. It keeps you bouncing from thing to thing, never staying long enough to develop true expertise. You must override this craving deliberately. You must recognize the boredom for what it is. A temptation to abandon the path right before it leads somewhere extraordinary. Here is the practical application. When boredom arrives, and it will arrive, do not interpret it as a sign to change course. Interpret it as a sign that you have survived longer than most. Interpret it as evidence that you are approaching the threshold where ordinary effort produces extraordinary results. Fall in love with the process, not the outcome. Find meaning in the repetition itself. The writer who loves writing will outlast the writer who loves having written. The athlete who loves training will outlast the athlete who loves winning. The entrepreneur who loves building will outlast the entrepreneur who loves the spotlight. The process is all you have. The outcome is a byproduct. If you cannot find satisfaction in the daily work, no achievement will ever be enough. You will reach the goal and immediately feel empty, searching for the next hit of novelty, never realizing that fulfillment was available all along in the mundane middle. Stay when others leave. Repeat when others quit. Let boredom be the wall that keeps the uncommitted out, and let yourself be one of the few who climbs over it. But there is one more truth you must confront before this protocol is complete. You can master boredom. You can protect your silence. You can build systems and shift your identity. You can win every morning and execute without motivation. And still, life will knock you down. Circumstances beyond your control will derail your progress. People will betray you. Economies will collapse. Health will fail. Plans will shatter. In those moments, there is only one thing that will save you. One mindset that separates those who recover from those who stay broken. It is called radical ownership. And in the next chapter, you will learn why everything in your life, every success and every failure, every advantage and every obstacle is completely and utterly your responsibility, even the things that are not your fault. Chapter 8, Radical Ownership. This chapter will make you uncomfortable. It is designed to, because comfort has been lying to you, and it is time someone told you the truth. Everything in your life is your fault. Your financial situation, your fault. Your relationships, your fault. Your health, your fault. Your career, your fault. The opportunities you missed, the people who wronged you, the circumstances that seemed beyond your control, all of it, your fault. Before you reject this idea, before you start listing all the legitimate reasons why your situation is not entirely your responsibility, I need you to understand something. I am not saying everything that happened to you is your fault. I am saying everything you do about it is your fault. And that distinction will either set you free or keep you imprisoned for the rest of your life. There is a fundamental difference between fault and responsibility. Fault looks backward. It asks who caused this. Responsibility looks forward. It asks who is going to fix this. And here is the brutal truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. It does not matter whose fault it is. It only matters who is going to take responsibility. You did not choose your childhood, but you are responsible for healing from it. You did not choose to be betrayed, but you are responsible for how you respond. You did not choose the economy, the pandemic, the industry collapse, the company layoff, but you are responsible for what you build next. The moment you accept this, everything changes. The moment you stop waiting for apologies that will never come, for circumstances to improve on their own, for someone else to fix what is broken, you reclaim the only power that ever mattered, the power to act. Jocko Willink commanded SEAL Team 3's Task Unit Bruiser during the Battle of Ramadi, one of the most violent combat deployments in the history of the Navy SEALs. In one tragic incident, friendly fire resulted in the death of one of his own men. When the investigation began, everyone expected Willink to point fingers. There were plenty of people to blame. Communication failures, equipment issues, confusion in the chaos of combat. Instead, Willink stood before his commanding officers and said 2 words, "My fault." He took complete ownership, not because he personally pulled the trigger, but because he was the leader and everything that happened under his command was his responsibility. No excuses, no deflection, no explanation that shifted blame elsewhere. This is radical ownership, the refusal to be a victim of anything, including things that genuinely victimized you. Most people live in a prison of blame. They point at their parents, their boss, their spouse, their circumstances. They construct elaborate narratives explaining why they are stuck, why they cannot move forward, why their dreams remain unrealized. And every single one of those narratives, no matter how true, keeps them exactly where they are. Here is what blame actually costs you. Every time you blame something external for your situation, you are simultaneously admitting that you are powerless to change it. If your boss is the reason you are stuck, then only your boss can free you. If the economy is the reason you are struggling, then only the economy can save you. If your childhood is the reason you are broken, then your childhood has permanent control over your future. Blame feels like power. It feels like you are identifying the enemy, exposing the injustice, demanding accountability. But blame is actually surrender disguised as anger. You are handing the keys to your life to whatever or whoever you are blaming and saying, "Here, you drive." Radical ownership takes those keys back. It says, "I do not care who caused this. I do not care if it is fair. I do not care if I deserve better. I am the one who is going to fix it, because I am the only one who can." A study conducted at the University of California examined the psychological profiles of people who had experienced significant setbacks, including job loss, divorce, and serious illness. The researchers found that the single greatest predictor of recovery was not the severity of the setback. It was the individual's locus of control. People with an internal locus of control, those who believed they were responsible for their outcomes, recovered faster, reported higher life satisfaction, and achieved more success in the years following the setback. People with an external locus of control, those who blamed circumstances, other people, or bad luck, remained stuck significantly longer, often for years. Same setbacks, different responses, completely different lives. Average performers ask, "Why did this happen to me?" They analyze the injustice. They seek validation for their victimhood. They wait for external conditions to change before they take action. Elite performers ask, "What am I going to do about it?" They skip the analysis of blame entirely. They accept the situation as it is, not as it should be, and they begin building immediately. This is not toxic positivity. This is not pretending that bad things do not happen or that unfairness does not exist. Bad things happen. Unfairness is real. Some people face obstacles that others never have to consider. Acknowledging this is not weakness. Dwelling on it is. You can spend your life building a case for why you deserve better, or you can spend your life building something better. You cannot do both. The energy you invest in blame is energy stolen from action. Every minute you spend explaining why your situation is not your fault is a minute you are not spending changing your situation. Let me ask you something directly. What are you still blaming? What circumstance, what person, what event from your past are you still using as an explanation for why you are not where you want to be? Name it. Look at it clearly. And then ask yourself this question. How long are you going to let it control your future? Because that is the choice you are making every day you hold on to blame. You are choosing to let the past dictate the future. You are choosing to give power to people who may have forgotten you exist. You are choosing to remain a victim of something that already happened and cannot be changed. Radical ownership is the antidote. It is the decision to stop asking who did this to me and start asking what am I going to do now. It is the recognition that responsibility is not a burden. Responsibility is freedom. The more you take ownership of, the more power you have to change. This is not easy. It requires you to give up the comfort of being wronged. It requires you to abandon the identity of the victim, which for many people has become so familiar it feels like home. But that home is a prison, and the door has always been unlocked. Take ownership, not because everything is your fault, but because acting as if it is gives you the only thing that matters. Control. There is one final mirror you must face before this protocol is complete. You have learned to distrust motivation. You have learned to win the morning. You have learned to shift your identity, build systems, protect your silence, master boredom, and take radical ownership. But none of it matters if you are lying to yourself about where you actually are. In the next chapter, you will face the mirror test, the unflinching examination of the evidence your life has produced, not your intentions, not your potential, the actual results, the numbers, the facts, the truth that you have been avoiding. This is where transformation becomes real, or where it dies. Chapter 9, the mirror test. There is a person you have been avoiding. Someone who knows every lie you have told yourself. Someone who has watched every shortcut you have taken, every promise you have broken, every excuse you have manufactured. This person has been waiting for you to stop running, waiting for you to turn around and face what you have been refusing to see. That person is in the mirror, and today, you are going to meet them. The mirror test is not about motivation. It is not about inspiration. It is about evidence. Cold, hard, undeniable evidence of who you actually are versus who you have been pretending to be. Most people live in a fantasy constructed from intentions. They tell themselves they are hardworking because they intend to work hard. They tell themselves they are healthy because they plan to start exercising. They tell themselves they are financially responsible because they know they should save more. But intentions are not evidence. Plans are not proof. The only truth that matters is the truth that can be measured. Here's the test. I want you to examine 4 areas of your life. Not what you wish they were, not what they used to be, not what they could become, what they are right now, today, based on evidence you cannot argue with. The first mirror is your bank account. Open it. Look at the number. Not the number you want it to be, the number it actually is. Now look at your transaction history from the last 90 days. Every purchase, every subscription, every impulse buy, every dollar that left your account and where it went. This is not judgment. This is evidence. Your bank account does not lie. It does not exaggerate. It does not make excuses. It simply reflects the financial decisions you have actually made, regardless of the financial decisions you intended to make. If you say you value financial freedom, but your bank account shows subscription services you forgot existed, daily coffee purchases, and impulse orders at midnight, there is a gap. That gap is not between your goals and your circumstances. That gap is between your stated values and your actual behavior. The second mirror is your calendar. Pull up the last 30 days. Every meeting, every appointment, every block of time, and how it was spent. If you do not track your time, that itself is evidence. It means you have been living reactively, letting other people's priorities consume your hours while your own priorities starve. Your calendar reveals what you actually prioritize, not what you say you prioritize, not what you believe you prioritize. What you give your time to is what you value. Everything else is just talk. If you say your health matters, but there is no workout scheduled, your health does not actually matter to you yet. If you say your family is everything, but your calendar shows 70-hour work weeks and no protected time for the people you claim to love, there is a gap. That gap is the distance between the person you think you are and the person your schedule proves you to be. The third mirror is your body. Stand in front of an actual mirror. Remove your shirt. Look, not with the eyes of self-hatred, not with the eyes of denial, with the eyes of an objective scientist collecting data about a subject. What does the evidence show? Your body is a physical record of every meal you have eaten, every workout you have completed or skipped, every night of sleep you have prioritized or sacrificed. You cannot lie to the mirror. You cannot explain to the mirror why it is not your fault. The mirror simply reflects what is. This is not about achieving some arbitrary standard of appearance. This is about alignment. If you have been telling yourself you are committed to your health, does your body confirm that story? Or does it tell a different story entirely? The fourth mirror is your relationships. Think about the 5 people you spend the most time with. Write down their names. Now ask yourself honestly, are these people who challenge you to grow? Are these people who hold standards you aspire to? Or are these people who make you feel comfortable staying exactly where you are? You become the average of the people you surround yourself with. This is not philosophy. This is mathematics. If your 5 closest relationships are with people who complain, who blame, who settle, who make excuses, their patterns are becoming your patterns. Their ceiling is becoming your ceiling. Look at the evidence. Look at who calls you, who texts you, who you spend your weekends with. Your relationships are a mirror reflecting the level of life you have accepted. Now comes the hard part. Most people, when confronted with these 4 mirrors, do one of 2 things. They attack the mirror or they run from it. They tell themselves the bank account does not reflect their true potential. They tell themselves the calendar was just a busy month. They tell themselves the body will change once they have more time. They tell themselves their relationships are fine. These are all forms of the same disease. The refusal to let reality penetrate the fantasy. The mirror test requires something different. It requires radical honesty. The willingness to stand in front of the evidence and say this is where I actually am. Not where I should be. Not where I could be. Where I am. This is not defeat. This is the foundation of all change. You cannot navigate to a destination if you do not know your starting point. Every GPS system requires 2 pieces of information: where you want to go and where you currently are. Most people obsess over the destination. They visualize it. They dream about it. They set goals and create vision boards and affirm it into existence. But they lie about the starting point. They tell themselves they are closer than they are. They round up their progress. They soften the edges of their current reality because the truth is too uncomfortable to accept. This lie is fatal. If your GPS thinks you are in New York when you are actually in Chicago, every direction it gives you will be wrong. You will drive with confidence toward a destination you will never reach because your starting point was a fantasy. The mirror test fixes your GPS. It forces you to drop a pin on your actual location. From there, and only from there, can real navigation begin. So what do you do with this information? First, you write it down. Not in your head where it can be softened and forgotten. On paper where it becomes concrete. The actual number in your bank account. The actual way your time was spent. The actual state of your body. The actual quality of your relationships. Black ink on white paper. Undeniable. Second, you accept it without judgment. This is crucial. The mirror test is not an invitation to self-hatred. Self-hatred changes nothing. Self-hatred is just another form of avoidance, a way of performing guilt without doing the work of change. You must look at the evidence with the detachment of a scientist. This is the data. This is where we start. Third, you use it as fuel. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not a reason for shame. It is a reason for action. Every great transformation begins with a clear-eyed assessment of the current state. The alcoholic who gets sober first admits they are an alcoholic. The bankrupt entrepreneur who builds a fortune first admits they are broke. The truth is not the enemy of progress. The truth is the prerequisite for it. You have now completed 8 chapters of this protocol. You understand that motivation is a lie. You have learned to win the morning. You have shifted from mood-based action to identity-based action. You have a 5-second tool to override hesitation. You understand that systems matter more than goals. You protect your energy through silence. You embrace boredom as the price of mastery. You take radical ownership of everything in your life. But none of it matters if you do not know where you actually stand. Take the mirror test. Today, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now, look at the evidence. Accept it. Write it down. And then, in the final chapter, you will learn how to take everything you have discovered and activate it into a daily protocol that runs automatically. A system that does not require motivation to operate. An architecture that transforms the person you are into the person you were always meant to be. The mirror has shown you the truth. Now it is time to change what it reflects. Chapter 10, The Protocol Activated. You are not the same person who started this audiobook. Something has shifted, not in your circumstances, not in your opportunities. What has shifted is the lens through which you see yourself and the operating system that drives your behavior. You now possess knowledge that 97% of people will never have. Not because it is hidden, but because most people will never sit with these ideas long enough to let them penetrate. They will listen, nod, feel inspired, and return to their old patterns by tomorrow morning. But knowledge without implementation is entertainment. You did not come here to be entertained. You came here to be transformed. This is the mental force protocol. Activated. The protocol begins the night before. Before you close your eyes, set one clear intention for tomorrow. Not a to-do list. One single priority that matters most. Write it down. Place it where you will see it the moment you wake up. This is your primary target. If you accomplish nothing else except this one thing, the day is a victory. Clarity of priority eliminates the chaos of choice. Next, prepare your environment. Lay out your clothes. Remove obstacles between you and your morning execution. The version of you that wakes up tomorrow is weaker than the version of you right now. Make decisions tonight while you are strong. When the alarm sounds, the protocol activates. You have 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Feet on the floor. No negotiation. No consultation with your feelings. The alarm is not a suggestion. The alarm is a command. And you are now someone who obeys their own commands. This is the snooze button test. You pass it by moving before your brain constructs its case for comfort. Every morning you win this test, you deposit evidence into the account of who you are becoming. Once vertical, you do not check your phone. The first 30 minutes belong to you. They are sacred. They are non-negotiable. During these 30 minutes, you execute your primary target. not email, not messages. The one thing you identified last night. This is systems over goals in action. You are not relying on motivation to decide what to do. The decision was made last night. You are simply executing. As you work, you operate from identity, not mood. You do not ask yourself, do I feel like doing this? You ask yourself, who am I? You are the person who executes regardless of feeling. Feelings are weather. Identity is climate. You do not change your plans because of weather. Throughout the day, you protect your silence. When temptation arises to announce your goals, to collect validation from others, you remember the cost. Every announcement is a dopamine leak. You win in silence. The applause comes later. The work comes now. When boredom arrives, you recognize it for what it is. Not a signal to change direction. A signal that you have outlasted the amateurs. You do not seek novelty. You seek depth. The exciting days are easy. The boring days are where champions are made. When circumstances turn against you, you take ownership. Not blame. Ownership. You do not waste energy analyzing whose fault it is. Everything in your life is your responsibility. This is not a burden. This is freedom. And periodically, you return to the mirror, bank account, calendar, body, relationships. You look without flinching. You accept without excusing. The mirror is not your enemy. The mirror is your compass. This is the protocol. Night preparation, morning execution, identity-based action, silence, boredom tolerance, radical ownership, mirror calibration, day after day, until the protocol is no longer something you do. It is something you are. Let me tell you what happens next. In the first week, it will feel forced. You will forget steps. You will revert to old patterns. This is normal. Do not interpret early struggle as evidence that the protocol does not work. Your old identity is fighting for survival. It will whisper that this is too hard, that you are not the kind of person who changes, that tomorrow would be a better day to start. Ignore it. That voice is the death rattle of the person you are leaving behind. Let it fade. In the first month, the neural pathways will strengthen. The morning execution will require less willpower. You will catch yourself acting like the person you decided to be, without having to consciously choose it. In the first 90 days, it will become automatic. The protocol will run in the background like an operating system. The person you were when you started this audiobook will feel like a distant memory. 1 year from now, you will look back at this moment. The moment you decided to stop waiting for motivation. The moment you decided that your feelings were not qualified to run your life. And you will realize something profound. You will see that every early morning, every moment of boredom you pushed through, every time you chose silence over announcement, was building something invisible, brick by brick, vote by vote, until one day you woke up and realized the construction was complete. You had become someone new. The protocol did not give you anything you did not already have. It simply removed what was blocking it. The discipline was always there. The potential was always there, buried under excuses, hidden behind hesitation, locked away by a lifetime of letting feelings dictate action. The protocol unlocked you. The rest was already yours. So here is my final question. What are you going to do tomorrow morning when the alarm goes off? That moment is coming. It is unavoidable. And in that moment, you will face a choice. The same choice you have faced 1,000 times before. But this time, you know something you did not know before. You know the alarm is not asking if you are tired. It is asking who you are. You know that 5 seconds is all that separates intention from action. You know that motivation is not coming to save you. The protocol is in your hands. The knowledge is in your mind. The only thing missing is the action that proves you meant it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rise.